You suck! Why are you against me? You suck in this moment! You suck! You suck! 2 minutes!
PSP Hacking 101.
Okay.
Hi, Fox!
Regular.
PSP Hacking 101, episode 18.
Finally.
The first year of PSP Hacking.
Oh, yeah. As of 11 p.m.
Yeah, tonight. This is,
Well, I've been around for a year.
Yeah, we taped the first episode. I dragged Raggable kicking and screaming, saying, "We gotta do a podcast." And he's like, "Why?" And I'm like, "Because everybody else is doing one, we can do a better one."
I still said why. I think I'm still saying why.
It wasn't even going to be a podcast, really. Were we planning on doing more than one?
You're the one with all the plans.
Okay, I didn't really have much of plans.
I just came over one night. He's like, "Hey, sit down. We're gonna do this thing."
Well, this is before iTunes even had podcasts, so it was really more of just a video show, because we were just kind of imitating what all the old Tech TV people were doing with their little video shows and stuff.
Yeah, I guess so. You know more about it.
Anyways, so
1 year anniversary,
and we're kicking it off with a 2-camera shoot.
Yeah, Fox has upped his arsenal in video production.
So yeah, we got 2 high-def cameras. See if any other podcasts have that they can say.
2 high-def cameras.
Yeah, 2 high-definition cameras.
Anyways,
long intro. Case in point, we've got a Too Smart Guys camera, and we're still utilizing another camera that we've been utilizing.
Anyways, let's kick this puppy off. Here is our mod chip install process.
The long-awaited mod chip install.
And you will see through the videos why this took so long. We went through a number of PSPs, a number of processes, contacting people to find the right equipment, contacting other people to find out a better way to do it than we had been doing it.
A lot of people on our forums, people in chat. A lot of help, and it still took us a really long time.
And at the end, we compiled a list of some points that aren't really pointed out in the installation diagrams or anything. And
you'll be happy to know this episode is our longest one yet. I think we're going over.
I think we're
a half an hour. It's going to be over half an hour.
Yeah, this surpasses like Kai now.
Yeah. Oh, and you'll be happy to know there'll be another DVD after this one with all the episodes since the last.
I think it'll have to be a two disc DVD.
Yeah, it'll be a 2-disc DVD.
Because we've got 6 episodes to catch up on, or 5. We stuck on. And so yeah, it'll be a 2-disc.
And it'll be a few weeks before that gets out, because there's going to be a lot of work,
a lot of
finding all the behind the scenes and bloopers and stuff that we took that we normally don't put on the show, that we put on the DVDs and audio commentaries and. Having to go through and edit things. Anyways,
all right, here we go.
On with the install process.
Over our course of installing the mod chips, we've come up with a list of some good tips to help you out there, that if you're going to do it by yourself, and then a list of equipment that you really should have before you do this.
Yeah, I found out the hard way. It's not as simple as just,
what is the tally anyways? Mine, we dare not touch it in that way again.
Yes.
Pox's is on the IR table, waiting to be resurrected.
Yeah.
So what's the count anyways of how many we've tried this?
There's 4 PSPs that were involved in the process. And there's 1 that's working with the mod chip, 1 that was resurrected back to its former state, and 2 that are just down and out for the count. Might be able to resurrect one of them again.
Yeah. Anyways, a list of equipment. First and foremost, you have to have a microscope. I mean, mine was the first one we tried scraping on. Did not work. When we tried Pox's and then put it under the microscope, you think you can see it, that you're scraping it with the human eye, but as soon as you put it under the microscope, you're off, and you've cut too far, you've cut too deep.
We tried getting a little Radio Shack microscope, but that's not. It was like a 60 to 100 pound. It was too powerful, and you had to have it right on top.
Yeah.
So you couldn't use it while you were scraping or soldering.
A stereo microscope that you can put the motherboard under and scrape.
You need like a good 10 to 20x. I mean, like a good 10 one for actually doing the work, and a 20 would be nice for checking it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it just. And when you do have a microscope, you don't have to worry about the stencils. All in all, the stencils.
They help give you a basis of how far apart and how long the pieces need to be. They are helpful, but if you're just going to try and do it blind with the stencils, it's just going to be an act of God if it works.
Yeah, you're really pushing your luck if you use the stencils.
Because it'll look good to the naked eye. You can use the stencils and you can do it, and it'll be like, oh,
Looks
it
good,
looks
yeah.
shiny and it looks all right. And even at
Slap it under the microscope.
even at
and
the
you
magnifying glass, it looks like, oh, that's not too bad. Yeah, and then under the microscope, there's slashes. It looks like Freddy Krueger got to your PSP. It's like.
Yeah, so a very fine tip soldering iron, and then 30 gauge wire for the power and the L for the L button points.
Yeah,
right?
and that's just stuff you can pick up at Radio Shack.
Yeah,
That's not
and
too
then
bad.
What you had found over there.
Well, except for the soldering iron tip, you can't find that at Radio Shack. Or a microscope, apparently.
You can find those on eBay though. eBay. But you found this tip tinner and cleaner solution.
Yeah, there's good stuff for the flux. You have to have flux.
Right. What my point about the tip tinner and cleaner is that you just dipped it in there, and that tin the point of it, and that's all you need to solder those points together. I mean, you don't actually need solder.
Yeah, you don't actually normally when you're soldering. You'll heat up the point and you touch the solder to it. You don't even need to do that. You can just tin the tip and just use whatever's on the tip of that iron to actually do the soldering.
This is for the NAND tray sleeves, though.
Yeah.
For the power and the L button, do you actually use solder?
I don't know. Because I had a hard time doing it right.
You had it right at one point in time. Anyways, you said flux. What kind of flux would you use?
Oh, liquid flux.
Liquid
flux and like a needle to put it on with.
Yes, because you don't need...
And rubbing alcohol to clean it.
Yes.
Because if you leave that flux on there, it gets all goopy and then it doesn't really work so well. So if you're having to do it multiple times like I was, because I'm not that good at it, I'm getting better, but then after it gets goopy and it's not working for a while, then clean it off with alcohol and try again.
And then adequate lighting. All right, not adequate, very good lighting.
And you want it to be like right above too, because if you have it coming from the side, you have these really deep shadows that kind of lay across everything. Or if it's in front of your hand, then it blocks the light.
Yeah, so I mean, we were actually using the lights that we have for our shoots. We were using those,
and they're hot. They're
hot.
They're 500 watt halogens, and there's 3 of them.
Yeah.
We were using 2 of them.
And I wouldn't want to do it without those. As soon as you turn them off, I can see.
Well, yeah.
So find the best light source that you can.
Ultimately, we went to a jeweler.
Yeah.
And he said he could actually do the soldering for us with a welder, but it evaporated the traces on the PSP. So that wasn't a very good option. It was a laser welder.
That was fun.
Yeah.
That was a cool experiment, though.
Yeah, but he had a really good microscope they let us use, and that's how we ultimately got it working.
For a short amount of time.
Well, I just
we'll get to that point.
Yeah.
We'll get to that point. All right. As far as tips go, there are 3 basic areas: scraping, soldering, and then actually reassembling the PSP. Okay. For scraping, actually do this under the microscope. Like Pop said, use the stencils as a guide as where they should be placed.
And we found the best thing to do is actually use a box knife and break off a new blade after every couple traces because they dull. If you look under a microscope, you can see the tips of that box knife getting duller and duller. So that's an interesting note.
Yeah, and make sure the cut goes the entire width of the wire in a good length, as Pops said to me.
Yeah.
And then when scraping, angle it so you're scraping along like broadside instead of cutting into it.
Right. First time Ragbull did it on his, he cut into it.
Straight into it.
That didn't work. And we look at it under the microscope, you'll see just like a line down the center of the line. It was too thin,
yeah,
and it wasn't enough to hold any. There wasn't enough contact to hold the solder point in there.
So you've got to angle it broadside of the blade.
Screw across.
Yes, and then we said about the length should be about 2 millimeters. Is what it looked like to me.
The length of what?
The cut.
Oh yes,
That's great.
Yeah.
Yep. Other than that, that's all you need to know about scraping. And then after that, soldering.
And if you can't tell by the video, the length of the traces or the width of those traces are about the size of the line on the ruler for a millimeter. So it's kind of hard to measure how small they are.
Yeah, you just have to basically the length of the stencil is what I would recommend.
Yeah. What the stencil gives you
about
is
2 to 3 millimeters. I think. Okay. Anyway, soldering. Lay down the wire for the traces as parallel to the line as possible. Yeah, and as flat as possible.
So that way you can have more contact.
Yeah, you have the board soldered, and then you have the wire going on top. Don't go like this, perpendicular to it, or at an angle. Try to get it as flat as possible. That's the best way. to make sure it sticks and that it doesn't bend or anything like that.
Yeah, that seemed to work the best. I don't know, there was a few traces where I had to do it the other way.
Because you couldn't get it to lay parallel. I mean, there will be areas where it will be difficult, so try to manage as best
You basically
as
just want to get as much metal touching metal as possible.
Yes. And then when you soldered the power and the L buttons, you actually had to lower the power?
Yeah, for some reason, that little click and the 33 volt, I actually had to lower the temperature on my iron. I don't know, mine just has between 1 and 5, and I had it at 3.1 or 2, and I lowered it to like 2.8 when I was doing those. For some reason it was too hot, and it would just drag all the solder with it. To get it to stay on those bigger metal pieces, I had to lower it. I don't know, just my own personal...
The other thing too is, actually, I would recommend doing this under the microscope as well.
Oh, okay. Definitely.
Pox got greedy, and tried to do some points without the microscope, and his machine is now in the state that it is. Which wouldn't have happened.
It worked for like an hour or so.
That's when it just waited until we had access to the microscope.
Yeah, but it was going to be tweaks, and I didn't want to wait that long.
I know, but like I said, you got...
well, we might be able to fix it.
Yeah, hopefully. Like we said, just tin the iron and tin the wire, and that should be enough to actually solder it on there. And then you have to make sure that when you're on the microscope looking at the wire going under the motherboard, it has to be as flat as possible, not springy, because if it's a little bit loose from the motherboard, it won't stick. Remember that?
Yeah, when you're soldering, you want to take another tool and actually press it down right up against the motherboard, because if there's any space in between that,
where it's springy or bouncy or anything like that, it won't stick properly.
It wouldn't hold.
Yeah, and you have to hold it down. And so that's kind of a challenge too. Anything else?
I think that's good for the soldering.
Yeah.
And soldering.
Any other points? Any other?
If you can get a better, thinner iron, there's actually like pencil tip ones that work better. We just don't have access to them.
Yeah, if we had access or could easily afford one, we would have. So if you have access and can afford one, we'd recommend doing it for the sake of your PSP. And then reassembling. Okay, this it may not sound difficult.
Yeah,
but this is what caused Poxes to go the way of.
Yeah. So as you'll see in the video, I ended up having to take it apart and put it back together so many times because there would just be one little trace where I accidentally spilled a little solder over, the wire bent, or it popped off in the process of reassembling it.
See, the thing is you lay down the ribbon cable next to those traces, and then after you reassemble, you bend that wire back. But what that's doing is it's causing that ribbon cable to pry up like that. And so if it's not secured properly, it'll put stress on those solder points, which will then cause them to fall off. So you may have to make sure that ribbon cable.
The instructions said use double-sided tape. We used double-sided tape, but it wasn't strong enough.
But the thing is that we might have used so much alcohol.
That's right. When I was cleaning it, I was using a lot of alcohol, and just the fact that I had reassembled and disassembled it so many times.
That's true.
Eventually, that double-sided tape came apart.
And that's what happened to his.
So I don't know. I'd recommend. Some people are using some hot glue.
Maybe even super glue. Oh yeah, that reminds me. I'll get to that point. Yeah, to ensure, I mean, you don't have to reassemble the PSP completely to make sure that you have the mod chip working. Pox found this out. You can connect the power and two speakers, or the speakers.
You can connect the power and a speaker, just one speaker. Connect the power board, the motherboard,
and the L button.
And then you can power it on and test it.
Hold the L button, and you should hear the sound.
But before you disassemble your PSP, you want to make sure that it has the sound turned up all the way. And you want to be able to hold down the L button so it'll boot to the original BIOS. And if it's doing that, then you'll know, hey, I got it working.
So if you've got it working at that point in time, what I would recommend to do is actually super glue, lay a layer of super glue over the solder points, just to make absolutely sure.
I guess so. That's what I ended up doing ultimately, but it was already too late. I had messed it up.
But I mean,
and they scraped the super glue scraped off okay, so it wasn't, and the iron would heat through the super glue. I don't know. Email me and give me spam or whatever if we're wrong. But
to me, it's another safety precaution on making sure that those wires do not pop off. Because, I mean, when you're transporting it or you're carrying it or if you accidentally drop it.
Yeah, and some people have emailed me and said that they've installed a few chips and a few days later they stopped working. So and so far we have deletes and we actually own it now.
Yeah.
And his has been working now for 2 weeks and I've been using it.
He told us not to open it, but
every day, and it's been working okay. So it's not the mod chip; it's just people soldering, and the skill of putting it back together and making sure it holds well. The mod chip itself works great.
Yeah.
And I'm sure if you get this professionally installed at modchipstore.com, I mean they have a warranty on it and everything, so I would recommend that.
Yeah. So all in all, if you don't have all the equipment and you're going to do this yourself, there's the microscope, the iron. And then all the other accessories.
Yeah, all the finest tip of an iron and the finest
you can run up to
solder that you can get, and
$150 to $200 for this equipment.
Oh yeah, easily. And the microscopes, man, we were trying to find one on eBay, $60 for like a 20x. But if you want one that
the range we recommend. Did we already say this? 10 to 20x.
Yeah.
Anything higher is too much. Anything lower is pointless, as far as we know.
Oh.
That's what we use.
That's what we've determined so far.
It's what we use and it's what worked for us.
Yeah.
That's about it.
That's about it.
But he got his working for a short amount of time, so we actually sort of got it installed. Speaking of which, my brother said he'd trim it.
Sweet.
So we can do that.
So we're going to dissect his.
So once we get a microscope of our own and a fresh PSP, we're going to do this the proper way.
Oh, someone else told me that you can. They sent me some video, and it's in this video of using one of those X5 microscopes, a little toy Intel microscope.
Yeah, that hooks up to the.
Yeah, you have to mount it a little bit higher, so you got to like tape it up higher a little bit. But then you can actually, it's a 10x microscope, and it actually works fairly good.
And those are fairly cheap.
Yeah, they're under $60.
See, so that's an option for you as well.
Yeah, but.
That's not stereo though, is it?
No, it's not stereo. Stereo microscopes are nice because you have depth. You can gauge a little bit better when you're soldering exactly how high things are. I'm Fox.
I'm Ruggable Man on the camera this time.
And this is Raggable's baby.
Yeah.
Rip it guts apart.
Mine has been is up on the chopping block due to the fact that
the half-bricked one probably would not work again if we took it apart.
And the PSP to TV one won't work as well, so it's my turn to sacrifice for the cause. So step one, of course, is to open up your PSP. Oh. What?
This is the screen. I just don't want to get them dirty.
Yeah, we had a bad experience with that faceplate and dust, but you gotta take the screen out.
Man. Here's your little start buttons. And these little tabs. In that one video for the PSP to TV, they just... This is what I had problems with last time, is breaking one of these off.
Well, now you tell me this.
Because you can only do it so many times. Sure, Raggable likes the sound of that.
That made me snap my head.
And here's the fun part.
Oh, that's what the X-Acto knife is for.
And this is where I screwed up last time around. This part right here, it's kind of like your little VGA connector on your monitor. And the other part's a little power cable. Silver, 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 big silver, little silver, and a little black.
Sweet.
Oh yeah.
You gotta pop that?
Yeah. Because that's the little hinge that I see. PSP hacking 101. I don't think we'll need to take this one off. We're gonna take out the whole board, right? So we're gonna need to disconnect these rhythm cables.
Ooh, that one was a lot easier.
Yeah. It just automatically popped as I pulled it out. And these ones, I like these ones.
That's the way they should have been done.
Yeah.
All of them.
Okay, this first one that kind of looks... Both of these go to,
Are those audio?
Look at the bottom. They must be the speakers. But yeah, they're the speakers. If you really want to mess with somebody, you can switch them.
What's that?
I'm not really sure what this goes to. This must be the main power going to the motherboard here. I would assume. I do not know.
We do not know. Yes, the mod chip guys, I'm sure they'd tell you.
This is it. This is the guts, man.
This is what we're going to be working with.
Really big letters. TA079.
Here, I'll show you what I'm talking about.
So incredibly small.
This is the tool. This thing right here. This is what guides you on what things to cut. This has to be placed right here to cut along those wires. So they recommend you use a sharp tool, such as an X-Acto knife. I'm sure if you see your solder, you've got one laying around, or two, five. Depending if you like to cut yourself. And yeah. Alright, so I am now going to position this, glue it, and then proceed to remove the solder beads.
Well, that's while it's hot. Position it while it's on there. Quickly.
Quickly, my son, quickly. You must make haste.
It's positioned right this time. Right there, tape it down and glue it down.
We have got our leads traced. And Fox's job is now to solder these wires.
Ragable's PSP isn't going to work for the mod chip anymore. He scraped off the wrong traces. He had the stencil in the wrong spot. We tried to save it for like a day and a half there. We tried all sorts of different things. We tried putting super glue over it and then rescraping, and it just was not working. The leads just were overlapping, and we're just afraid that they'd touch, and it was going to be too hard to solder. So there was one point that he actually successfully cut. And so I ended up jumpering that with another wire, put it all back together again, and prayed. And it works. So luckily we were able to save Ragable's PSP. It's a working 1.5. Now we're going to try the same thing on one of my PSPs. Because it was so difficult, I'm going to try this on the infamous PSP to TV PSP. And so if you notice, there's this weird screen error. And I'll go into detail more on why it is the way it is. But if you like press on it funny, it comes in and out. It's mainly because there's a connector missing for the LCD screen. So this is just mainly going to be the test machine to see if this whole process even works anymore. Using electrical tape to hold everything together. This right here is the piece that broke off and another piece that broke off. Mainly because I was just too anxious and I was continually trying to get this to work regardless of the fact that these pieces are missing. So I'm surprised it worked at all, and it'll be a miracle if I get it to work again. So I'm really not too sure about using the mod chip on this, but we'll see. Now, they're supposed to use a video-aided microscope is what it said in one of the directions, but what I've got here is I got a couple different magnifying glasses that I'm using, and then a little eyepiece here to check it, and it looks good. I got both the stencils on there, and so far it looks like all the traces are perfect. All these little scrapings. So we got this puppy all, the solder mask all scraped off, all nice and good like. Up there by the ICI 501. And alright, another important thing that I failed to mention, that there is one point in the solder mask that actually has to be severed. So you actually want to sever the connection, and in order to make sure that it is severed, you want to use a multimeter and make sure that there's no circuit there, that you actually cut it nice and good on the right line. And sure enough, the connection has indeed been severed, which is perfect. So we're good to go there. And it says just use double-sided tape or glue. So I'm going to use double-sided tape. Alright, there we go. So we got that taped on there, so that should be good. Okay, so this right here is the very first solder point. It's B, and it's going from B here to B over here. So you just continue to do so, A, B, C, D, F, G, all the way across, and then the other ones are around here, and they're much closer. I found it was best to go ahead and put the wire on the heavier solder point over here, and then do this part second, mainly because if you're moving the wire around, it's more likely to pop off. Alright, so finally have all the solder points B through H all done here. And it was really hard. A lot harder than I expected, but hopefully it looks fairly decent under the microscope. I don't know though. Hopefully none of the traces are really crossed or anything. So we'll see. Kind of tricky up here. Ended up having to coat it with some solder first and sticking it in there before I was able to get it to stay. And then you got to put some tape over it to avoid contact with the metal on the frame of the PSP. So now we're going to put this puppy together and see if it works. Finally got this thing together. Plug in the LCD here. And I'm going to power it on. Since it's not flashed yet, we'll hold down the left button here. Left shoulder. It should move to the original glass. But it's not. So it's not working. So I did something wrong. No! My PSP! It was nice knowing you. You were my second PSP.
One of them at least.
Goodbye. Alright, so this is the finished soldering of the mod chip install on my PSP. And I just put a little bit of hot glue on there to make sure that this little ribbon cable stays put when I put it back in the PSP. Did this under a microscope. Should be good to go. It works! It really works! The mod chip, it works! It's installed and working! It's a miracle! 1 week later, probably a good 20 hours or so of soldering. Oh my gosh. I spent like 6 hours at the shop, at a jewelry shop yesterday. More than half of it was just getting prepared. Probably only a real hour or two of actual soldering and scraping of the leads. And then again today, I spent another 4 hours over there doing the same thing and just double checking everything. And then I got home, I put it all together, and it didn't power up. So then I went and cried for a few hours, and then I took another whack at it and opened it up, looked there, everything looked okay, but one of my points had come off, even though it seemed rock solid before. So then I put it back together again, powered it on, still didn't work. So my last resort is, if you can see, if this is what I ended up doing here, is I ended up taking everything apart and laying it out piece by piece, so I wouldn't have to keep reassembling the whole PSP. So it's all in pieces, but all you have to really have hooked up is just the power, the LCD screen, or the LCD, and you don't have to have the USB and all that stuff hooked up. Anyways, I missed a whole point earlier. I didn't even realize it, and all my rushing around, I missed one jumper, and so I got it all, and it works. I didn't think at this point I was about ready to give up all hope, but it works. It really works. Okay, I'm going to assemble this thing back together again so it'll be a functioning PSP, because right now it's just on the table. Go ahead and plug it in and make sure it powers on here. Oops. Of course, we're not going to get anything when we're not holding down the L button, because there is no BIOS yet flashed to the undiluted platinum. So hold down the left trigger, then power that puppy on, and bam! We should have Sony. Ta-da! So now we gotta hook this up to the PC and flash this bad boy. I have now learned my lesson in soldering, that this was extremely hard, harder than I anticipated, and I knew it was gonna be hard. So let's go ahead and boot this up into programming mode. Of course, we're gonna have to power it on, and hold in the left digital button there. And you won't see anything, it just boots up into programming mode. And we'll connect it via USB to the PC. Apparently it's got to be a Windows PC for now. Elite found that out the hard way. And we got to run the flashing application. And in order to do this, you need to have a dump of whatever firmware you want to flash onto the mod chip. Probably 1.5 if you're getting a mod chip, because your machine's already got a 2.7 or something on it. So that's what we shall do. Alright. So we got it all connected here, and we are going to flash it. And it's taking the little NAD dump that I ripped from actually this machine, because it was a 1.5 already earlier, and we're dumping it back onto the NAD chip for the undiluted platinum. Alright, so just finished flashing, so we'll go ahead and disconnect the USB cable, power off the PSP, and when we power it back on, it'll automatically boot into the BIOS that we just flashed on here, which would be the 1.5, if all went well. Oh wait, there it goes. Sweet. I just had to pull the power. Cool, awesome.
Oh, sweet. Okay,
Man, I
so
don't know why they needed to make a video for that flash. That was like beyond easy. Well, here we are making a video of it ourselves.
what is it? 7:12.
1.5. Woo!
So of course, power
And
off.
then power off. Hold the little trigger in there. Power it back on. Oh, you gotta.
I've got to
totally.
do it. Oh. Hard to ring at an angle. And there is the
There it is. 2.71. Dual booting PSP.
Why don't you look into its happy dance?
Alright, so those were our attempted installs on our various PSPs that we have.
Yeah, we're trying to get this episode out as quickly as possible. So anything I said that was going to be in episode 18 that wasn't in episode 18,
You promised more for episode 18?
I promised shout outs and I promised, credit to everybody who helped out. But
You can have those in the credits.
yeah, then maybe the show notes.
Show notes, something. Anyways, it's a long episode as it is right now.
Yeah, and
It's been a long time.
anything else I forgot that was going to be in 18, it'll be 19 or 20.
Okay. Alright. Good luck if you plan to do this yourself, people.
Yeah, modchipstore.com.
Yeah, that's our official verdict.
Yes.
Unless you have the equipment and some experience, you get a guarantee, a warranty or something.
Yeah, it's better than going out and buying the equipment and stressing out for 2 weeks and spending countless hours. Unless you like that sort of thing. It's a very good challenge if this is something you're trying to get into and you're willing to waste money on a couple PSPs.
Yeah. Alright. Good luck. See ya. Have fun.
This has been a Two Smart Guys production.
So you think there's nobody else out there fighting to protect your civil liberties? Electronic warfare. We wage electronic warfare. Hold on, it's about to get very interesting. Electronic warfare. We wage electronic warfare.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
How much did you pay for this homebrew game?
0.
Electronic warfare.
I can take a ride from the left to the right. In the game on the run, I can take a yellow gun. Life inside the video, running from a Scorpio. I can beat the score if I can follow Super Mario. I can take a ride from the left to the right. In the game on the run, I can take a yellow gun. Life inside the video, running from a Scorpio. I can beat the score if I can follow Super Mario. I can be a superstar driving in my fancy car. I can be a superhero. 3, 2, 1, 0. I can be Super Mario. Superhero.